Welcome, I'm Paul, this is Dave. Today I have 12 Glitch in the Matrix and supernatural stories for you. We start with the strange van that defies all known physics. Case file number 2449, written by Melancholic Scribe. The 2 a.m. mystery on icy Ohio roads. A few months ago, I was driving home from a work trip in New York. It was 2 a.m. and I'd been on icy roads for about 10 hours, so I was exhausted. Still, I know what I saw, multiple times too. In the middle of absolutely nowhere, Ohio, I caught up to a van that was driving next to a semi. It was a 2-lane highway, and the van wouldn't let me pass for a long time, matching the semi's pace even though both were going well below the speed limit. Also, the van was driving very erratically, so I was impatient to get away from it. When the van finally pulled ahead of the semi, I began passing it on the right. I watched the van's headlights on my left side mirror as I passed, since like I said, it had been swerving a lot, and I didn't want to get hit. Once I was well in front of it, I glanced at the road ahead, and then once again looked back in my left mirror. The van was gone. No headlights, nothing. Just an empty stretch of road, and then the semi that was now half a mile behind me. Very confused, I looked ahead again, and saw the van. It was about 100 feet in front of me, still in the left lane. At this point, I was incredibly disoriented, and questioning reality, and I'm exhausted, so maybe my mind was playing tricks on me? Still, I had watched the van's headlights as I passed it. I had clearly seen it fall behind me. There was no way it could have gotten 100 feet ahead of me in less than a second. Also, there had been no other vehicles in front of me when I passed it. Warily, I passed the van again. This time it stayed behind me, and I accelerated the hell out of there. Then 10 or so minutes later, I caught up to a familiar-looking vehicle. It was the same van. It had a specific company logo and slogan, so I recognized it. It was also driving slowly and erratically in the left lane, like before. With a sinking heart, I passed it on the right, watching its headlights. Again, as soon as I looked at the road ahead and looked back, it was gone. No headlights, no van, no nothing. However, this time it was not ahead of me either. Now I was thoroughly and completely creeped out. After a very stressful 10 minutes of driving, lo and behold, who do I approach? You guessed it, the same freaking van. Mercifully, it behaved like a normal vehicle this time when I passed it, which was good, or I might have had a mental breakdown. Understandable. I got home an hour or so later, very disturbed, and got some much needed rest. The only logical explanation I have is 3 vans with the same company logo were playing an elaborate prank by turning their lights off and on. But there were streetlights, and I would have been able to see them even with their headlights off. They also would have had to time their headlights to my eyes, switching between the mirror and the road, which is pretty improbable. This whole thing still gives me the creeps. Well, the only thing I can say is space-time portals, baby. But that's not a complete fit. Why drive erratically? Why were there multiple portals configured exactly in that right lane? And again, just shooting this one particular van ahead, like half a mile, 3 times. And why was it driving erratic? I don't know. Nothing fits perfectly in this one. Very creepy indeed. Case file number 2450, written by Ali Too Cool. My guardian angel in orthopedic shoes? I was about 9 years old, and at the time, living in Brooklyn, New York. Going to the grocery store was a matter of walking a block down and 1 block to the right to get to my local grocery store. However, the grocery store was on the far corner of the block, which of course meant I had to cross the street to get to it. Which wasn't a problem as I used to do it all the time for my mom. However, one time when I was crossing that street, I wasn't paying attention, and a car was driving at roughly 45-50 miles an hour down the block. Which of course is insane in a residential neighborhood, but whatever. Anyways, I didn't notice the car, and I was looking at the opposite direction while I was crossing. I don't remember why. I know it was moronic of me, though. And the car was speeding down just as I was about to cross and involuntarily end myself. A really old, creepy lady put her hand on my shoulder, which prompted me to stop what I was about to do and look behind me. As to why this lady's hand was on my shoulder. Anyways, I turn around and the car just flies right by me. So I look in front of me and I was like, holy crap, I almost perished. Here's the crazy and creepy part though. After noticing what was about to end, I turn around to thank this old lady for saving my life, and she's just gone, nowhere to be found. And this is an old lady we're talking about, roughly 75, 80 years old. I was mind-flucked. She stops my untimely death and just disappears into thin air? No matter which direction I turned, I couldn't find her, which was creepy as hell. Until this day, I'm not sure whether this old lady really did stop me from crossing that street, or if it was some kind of angel that stopped me and I thought it was a real person. Whatever the case may be, I wouldn't be writing this story if it wasn't for her, or it, whatever it was. Guardian angel spirits, I think, can take temporary possession of people and endow them with additional strength and speed. Case file number 2451, written by JT3K. Undercover, Overpowered, and Out of This Dimension. I was driving along the M4 into Wales one Saturday afternoon. Was minding my own business at about 75 miles per hour in the middle of 3 lanes, thin traffic. Suddenly, I see blue lights behind me, a little way back. There's a guy overtaking me, so I slow down a bit to let him in front and let the police pass. Out of the corner of my eye, I see the car with the blue lights pull alongside me at a crazy speed, and somehow slow quickly enough and unnaturally enough to make me take notice, matching my speed, whilst the car in the fast lane takes its sweet time pulling in. I glance at the car with the blue lights. It's a base model Peugeot 106, black plastic bumpers, clip-on wheel trims, wholly nondescript with very well hidden blue lights. For those in the US, the non-sporting models of the 106 were offered with a 1.4 petrol engine maximum and might be able to do 100 miles per hour if you drop it off a cliff at 90 miles per hour. The road clears in front of him, and without any squatting, squirreling, noise, or any sign of stress, he goes. I mean, he just speeds off at a pace I've never seen. I've seen an awful lot of race cars, but that was something else. It was like watching one of those awful sped-up chase scenes from Knight Rider. He'd easily doubled his speed in a couple of seconds. I just put it down to being something I wasn't supposed to see. Reminds me of the scene in Men in Black where he finally pushes the red button. Case file number 2452, written by Drunk Nixon. Illuminating the Multiverse. I've read some glitch stories and laughed at their ludicrousness sometimes, but now I actually have one I cannot explain, except for a glitch in the Matrix. I have the chandelier type of lamp in my dining nook with 5 light bulbs on it that look like candles. A couple weeks ago, I noticed one of the bulbs go out, and it annoyed me because I'll need to buy special light bulbs now. I remembered I had some, but couldn't find them in the cupboard. The next morning, I see the cupboard is open, and I went to close it. When I bent down, I saw the package of the light bulbs and took it out, and counted 2. My cat likes to climb into this cupboard, so it was him shuffling around in there. I was glad I didn't have to buy any extra, and reminded myself to change it out at some point. A couple days later, I was sitting at this table and turned on the lamp. I went into the kitchen, and when I looked back, all the light bulbs worked. Okay, I thought, must have just been poor wiring before or something? But as I got closer, I noticed that the other 4 bulbs are all a bit dusty and kind of clouded, like bulbs that have been there for a while, except the one that I saw out a few days ago. It was brand new shiny. Even the little wires inside looked brand new. I thought maybe I forgot I changed it, but when I looked in the cupboard, there was still 2 left in the box. I would have remembered changing it too if I did, since the only chair nearby is an office chair with wheels, and I need to get a chair from a different room to change it. My friend says I must have jumped dimensions into one where the me is the one who had her crap together and changed the light bulbs on time. Case file number 2453, written by Rayla09. I donated them, I swear. I like to call them my haunted Dr. Martens. I had, or have, these Dr. Martens shoes that I wore out for years until I finally got tired of them and decided I didn't want to wear them anymore. One day, I wanted to donate some old clothes I didn't wear anymore, and thought I'd take them to those public donation bins I always see in my town for people to throw in their donated items. I take my clothes and decide that I also want to donate those Dr. Martens shoes as well. So on a perfect sunny day, I drive over to one of those donation bins and start throwing my bags of clothes in there. I remember my Dr. Martens were outside the bag, I grabbed them, and I tossed them into the bin. I vividly remember me standing there in front of the bin, tossing the Dr. Martens and seeing them fly into the air, falling inside the bin, and feeling relief that I finally got rid of them, since I had them inside my car for a while, before finally deciding to drive to the bin. A few weeks went by, maybe a month, and I was digging through my closets one day, because I was looking for something. And as I opened another closet, I swear I was ready to crap bricks on the spot, because in the closet, there they were, my Dr. Martens shoes neatly placed on the floor that I had thrown into the donation bin just a few weeks prior. The second I saw them in the closet, I literally shouted and fell back in shock in complete confusion. My brother was in the other room and heard me freaking out. Came over and asked me what was wrong because he just heard me shout, and I couldn't even talk straight because I was genuinely tripping and confused as to why my Dr. Martens shoes were back inside my closet neatly placed on the floor when I vividly remember tossing them into the donation bin on that day. After that, I didn't like touching or seeing the shoes again, and I got too scared to try to get rid of them again, so I decided to leave them alone. It's been at least 5 years since that occurred, and I never saw those shoes again. Even after I moved, they haven't reappeared, and I'm a minimalist. I don't know where they are, and I hope it stays that way. I don't do drugs, by the way. Perfectly sane. Case file number 2454, written by Luna Tuck. My husband thinks I'm nuts, but the dog disagrees. Yesterday afternoon, my husband was visiting a sick friend, and I was home alone with the dog and cats. I was in the kitchen when I heard my husband's car pull into the garage. He drives a Corvette, and the engine makes a very loud and distinctive noise. There is no mistaking it. The dog was lying on the front of the door that leads to the garage, and she heard it. She got up and watched the door expectantly, but I didn't hear him leave the car, and he never appeared. I thought it was weird because he's not one to just hang out in the car after coming home. But I got distracted with something else and temporarily forgot about it. After about 10 minutes or so, I realized my husband still hadn't come in. So I checked in the garage and his car wasn't there. I just assumed he must have immediately left again for some reason. But then I wondered, what if it's one of those Vardoger glitches? Or whatever they're called when you hear a phantom noise of someone coming home? But no, it couldn't be, because it was so clear, and both the dog and I heard this car right outside the door. So I texted my husband and asked him if he came home and left again. He said no, he was still at his friend's house. What the hell? It couldn't have been some random person who just happened to drive the same car as my husband, who pulled into our garage by mistake because the garage door was closed. My husband doesn't believe me, and it's infuriating. I know what I heard. I guess astral projection, but that would involve projecting the car itself. I think there have been a few stories of that happening, which makes you think, if a car can be projected, what is matter at all? It is energy, but that should involve a ton of energy to do that. Case file number 2455, written by Jolly Perception 7109. Daddy's got you. Or does he? This happened not 20 minutes ago. I set the baby down in his bassinet in our bedroom, then went down to the hall into the living room to talk to my boyfriend. Afterwards, I was coming back. I heard the baby had woken up and was crying. I had to go to the bathroom, which is right outside the bedroom, and thought he'd be fine for a minute. While I was in the bathroom, I heard, clear as day, the sound of my boyfriend's footsteps coming down the hall. I heard the bedroom door open and shut, and I heard his voice saying, "Hey, little baby's name, Daddy's got you, it's okay." And the baby stopped crying. So I left the bathroom and opened the bedroom door, fully expecting to see my boyfriend holding the baby. Nope. Baby was alone, still in the bassinet. And he had started crying again as soon as my hand touched the doorknob. My first instinct, and the most logical explanation, is that this was an auditory hallucination, which doesn't make a lot of sense, because nothing like that has ever happened to me. But the one part that makes me overthink is that the baby actually stopped crying for a minute, exactly as if he had been comforted. All I know is that it was a strange and unnerving experience. It's like the scene from Supernatural. Case file number 2456, written by Anonymous. Running to my fort, but my soul took a detour. I was 10 years old or so, out in my grandmother's backyard. She lived on a dead-end street lined with large old maple and oak trees. Seems like a large number of those trees were past their prime, and most their branches were bare. Her road was creepy, especially in the fall when all the trees were bare and the street was dark. She had a large, poorly maintained yard that was lined with craggy old apple trees along the back. A stubble field grew on one side, and an apple orchard grew on the other. Beyond those old apple trees that marked her property line lay an old stubble field. In the back third of her yard grew a nice maple tree. It was the kind of tree that had a bunch of branches low to the ground, or at least low enough for a 10-year-old boy to climb on. It was the perfect tree for a fort. Many low-hanging branches. It was just right. Weird things went on at that house, though. Things I can't explain. I traversed that yard fore and after the house, then out to the tree line often. That day was no different. Word picture painted, context outlined. Now, let me explain what happened. As I ran from the house toward that maple tree, I was very focused on getting there as efficiently as I could. About halfway to the tree, eyes focused on the ground ahead of me, I found myself floating above my still running body. I was experiencing what some call an out-of-body experience, I guess. It scared me, ironically, to death. It seemed surreal. I was floating, looking down at myself from 5 feet above. I panicked and slapped myself in the face to awaken from whatever this was. At first, this condition did not want to go away. In what seemed like 30 seconds, I was back to myself, running towards my target. So yeah, not sure what that was about, but it freaked me out pretty bad. It literally felt like the Doctor Strange movie. I don't know what caused the detachment, but that's not crazy. We are embedded with a soul, every one of us. It's what gives us free will and self-awareness, sentience, and all that. All that good stuff. I think so anyway. Now, the deeper question, of course, is where does the soul come from? Is it connected to the simulation, or God, or what else? I don't know. That's the big question. Case file number 2457, written by IC Dependent 9199, Déjà Vroom. About 3 months ago, me, co-pilot seat, and my girlfriend, driving, were on the highway going back home after a trip. This highway has 4 toll booths. When we were about to pass the first one, I noticed 2 SUVs, a blue and black and a white and red. They were parked just a bit before the toll. I didn't give it much attention, but I managed to see the guy driving the red SUV. He looked like your average Joe with sunglasses and a beard. I was about to see him because we were slowing down for the toll booths. Then, when we passed the second toll booth, I saw the same red SUV and the same guy. It was weird because the road was lonely, and I didn't notice anyone overtake us. I told my girlfriend about it because I thought it was weird, and asked her if she remembered someone going ahead of us. She confirmed no one overtook us between the booths. Then on the third toll booth, again, the same SUV and the same man parked just a bit further from the toll booths. I just didn't think this could be a simple coincidence, because I would have noticed if he overtook us on the road. For the next toll booth, I looked for the SUV, but it wasn't there. My girlfriend and I discussed about this during the rest of the road trip, but we just thought it was a weird coincidence. But then I found out about glitches. The first thing that came to mind was that this was an encounter. It's not too wild, but it is weird. Case file number 2458, written by Angus Van Hook Hinson, Scallop potatoes, brisket, and a little bit of mother's magic. One day at about 10 a.m., my mother, who was somewhat of a matron in the neighborhood, gave me a $20 bill and sent me to the grocery store. She told me to get a small brisket, make sure nothing over $10, she says, some green beans, and some scallop potatoes. We already had milk. Oh, and don't forget a pack of cigarettes, and bring me a receipt and my change. Off on my merry way I went. Well, maybe not merry. I was a sullen 16-year-old. A 2-mile walk from our home, to the local discount grocery store. We were poor, and I knew this was going to feed the family. My mother and her boyfriend, my little sister and myself, for 2 days. Supper tonight, and sandwiches for the blue collars tomorrow. I came back with what I was told to get. Total was $18 and some change. She was willing to overlook the 50 cents for a candy bar. Mother put the brisket on the smoker. I helped clean the house and prepare food as I'd done for my family since I was 10 years old. There's a lot to that story. A few hours later, at about 4 p.m., it was a small brisket, she sent me on the rounds to the neighborhood. Go up the hill and get Johnny and the Wineheads. Yep, that was what we called them. They liked their MD 2020. Presently, I came down with Johnny, Alan, and Mike. They shot the bull with my stepdad, Larry, a former winehead for a bit. He had cut back to beer, and myself for a few minutes. Until Mother sent me off on another errand. Go across the street and get Steve and Deborah and their girls, and tell them dinner is ready. So here come 5 more people. Now, we've always had an open door in the house I grew up in. We may not agree with you, but we'll feed you. I was no stranger to a whispered, go put some water in the stew, we're gonna have soup, when company would show up at whatever time they did. But I also knew my mother didn't have much money. She'd been complaining that she knew she'd be out of cigarettes tomorrow, and what was she gonna do? She's sure to kill one of those damn kids, if she couldn't sneak away for some back porch time. I also knew that this was all the food we had until payday, 3 days away. Also, since I had purchased the food, I knew what came in and out of that kitchen that day. Brisket, green beans, and scallop potatoes. I knew that was it. To this day, and until my dying day, I'll know it. Why are we giving our food away? My 16-year-old brain wondered. The Wineheads have spent more than $50 on their alcohol this week. I just saw Steve buy a used car last week. I know these dumb butts have money, and we sure as hell don't. We better be getting something out of this, thought my 16-year-old brain. But I had been subject to more than enough backhands to know better than to ask questions. So I did what I was told. Then my sister came over unannounced with her boyfriend and daughter. We can't turn them away, of course. 3 more. Then my brother and his wife and 3 kids, also out of the blue, 5 more. So we're all sitting on the porch and it's become a gathering at this point. The early autumn sun is going down and dusk is setting in. Children are running around, wineheads are being wineheads, and everyone else is having a good time. We're about to serve, paper plates of course, because I'm not washing all those goddamn dishes. And Mother tells me, go next door and get Chris and Mark. Tell them we're about to eat and they're welcome to come. 2 more. Then to top it off, my girlfriend at the time came. 23 people. My mother came out to the porch and announced, y'all come on in and feed yourselves. I'm not a restaurant, I don't wait frickin' tables anymore. We went into the kitchen in a single file, except for the kids who ran wild like children tend to do. And there it was, brisket, green beans, scallop potatoes. We all served ourselves. I know we had to have done so, because Mother was going on about how she was afraid the paper plates weren't going to last. I know we all got a plate. I know we all got 3 items on offer, either because we liked them, or because those that didn't like them were gracious enough to know that you don't turn your nose up at free food when you're poor, as all of us were. I know some of us came back for seconds. I sure as hell did. At 16, I was 6'1" and wasn't fat yet. This was around that 3 weeks in my life that I could eat everything in sight and not gain weight. So I came back for more. I know my brother came back. I know my older sister did. I know the blue-collar workers came back for more. I know Mother did. Brisket, green beans, scalloped potatoes. I know it seems like a silly thing to repeat, but 25 years later, I know what was on that table and how much. I'd walked 4 miles to get it home. I'd purchased it. I'd helped cook it. And I'd watched 23 people eat from this never-ending bounty. I'd watched at least half of them return for seconds, and at the end of the night, I watched my mother press into the hands of everyone there a little something extra that she had wrapped up in foil, so y'all can have something for lunch tomorrow. And the next day, Larry, Mother, my little sister, and I finished off the last of that tiny brisket in the form of sandwiches. I'd never seen it before, and indeed it took me a few weeks for me to really understand what had happened. I'd never seen anything like it since, and I likely never will. It was almost infinite food. This does seem like there's no logical explanation. I mean, the food was just being ported in from a different universe, I guess. Let's go with that. But yeah, this is a S-tier glitch, like the best of the best. I guess infinite money would be even better, but infinite food is, or almost infinite. It's way, way up there. Keep it coming, keep it coming. Case file number 2459, written by Spillagar. Minor mysteries over major meals. Me and my friend were eating at a restaurant. We hang out regularly and are very close. The waitress came to grab our drink orders. She was listing off the available choices, ending with root beer. My friend said root beer, which is odd because she never really got that. That was what was going through my head. I would just assume she was influenced by the waitress and just wanted it that day. I ordered a lemonade. Then I came to the bathroom. I really wanted to wash my hands. When I came back, my necklace was in the ground by our table, which was upsetting. I really liked that necklace. I thought it broke. I grabbed it and wanted to see what broke. The clasp worked fine. I thought it was odd because I usually make sure my necklaces are on with a quick tug when I first put it on. Then I noticed my friend had lemonade. I asked her if it was a mistake. She shook her head no and said she ordered lemonade. I told her I thought you said root beer. She went on about how she wouldn't have ordered that. I told her that's exactly what I thought, but didn't question it. Not extremely weird or deceiving, but these events that day stuck with me. I wonder if I just misheard her and somehow incorrectly clasped my necklace? No clue. This is an odd combo. A different universe maybe. But then, how did you go there? I mean, did you die in the bathroom? That would be awkward. It's definitely not the place you want to perish. Case file number 2460, written by Maynaderi. Blood, Belief, and Birthday Parties for Gods. I'm Chinese, living in Singapore. My grandfather used to have a giant altar at home that had statuettes of all the Chinese gods, like the Jade Emperor, the Goddess of Mercy, Guan Yu, etc. Every year he would be in charge of organizing this massive event, which my dad explained was the god's birthday celebration. During that day, there'd be a huge tent set up in a nearby field. The statuettes would be moved to a temporary altar in the tent, and mediums would come for the event and take turns invoking the various gods into their bodies so they could A. answer questions of the people who would show up to either ask for help or guidance, and B. have some fun chilling in a physical body, essentially, and sort of check in with the believers. I was a kid when my granddad was still alive and doing this, so I never really questioned it, just took it as a part of life. I knew the mediums. They were just regular guys who'd come and drink coffee with my granddad on occasion and shoot the breeze. But when they were possessed by the gods, they were suddenly capable of things that they really shouldn't be able to. I saw one guy cut his tongue repeatedly to use the blood to draw on paper amulets, but he had no wounds once he returned to his normal self. I saw another guy who was channeling Guan Yu lift the Guan Dao, I think the translation would be halberd, with one hand, when the thing was heavy enough that it usually took 2 men to lift it, and swing it around casually with the grace and expertise of someone who was used to that weapon. And he's average in build, with no martial arts training. We stopped having those major days, or celebrations, after my granddad passed away, and his children all chose not to continue with his legacy. So the clan association members invited the god statuettes away to either stay in their homes or at their temples. And as I grew up, I realized that what I thought was normal was a very, very different childhood from most of my classmates, even those of the same race and religious background. There are many Shentan out there. Damn it, I'm not sure what that translates to. Temples? In Singapore and Malaysia and Taiwan, that still have mediums that channel the gods regularly for people to ask for guidance. There are, of course, many that are full-on con jobs, out to cheat desperate people out of their money or worse. Considering the fact that my granddad lived in a tiny 1-bedroom apartment and didn't leave much to his children upon death, we were either the worst con people ever, or that was all genuine. It's hard for me to reconcile my childhood with the Western education and culture that I'm so much more familiar with. It's hard for me to reconcile that with science. It's bloody impossible for me to try to explain away the fact that one of the mediums came to my granddad's house one day, out of the blue, spontaneously channeled one of the gods, Jigong, without the usual ritualistic singing or preparation, and warned my granddad that if he went on that trip to China, he would die. And my granddad did fall violently sick upon his return, wasted away in a matter of days, and died weeks after. That medium liked to wear rings on his fingers that were super tight, and usually required a lot of grease and effort to take off before he channeled the gods, because you're not supposed to have any jewelry on you. That day in my granddad's living room, the rings flew off, and we had to go hunt them out from under the coffee table. He didn't know my granddad was even going on that trip or why he was going, but when he was channeling, he knew all the details. My Catholic, Eurasian husband has a hard time reconciling the woman he knows with that part of my life and how familiar I am with the various rituals and gods. I guess he thinks of all of it as a rather old-fashioned ethnic belief system, and that people are just faking being mediums for purposes of parting the gullible with their money. I don't often talk about that part of my life because it's kind of hard to explain myself, and I dread seeing the "are you kidding me" expression on people's faces. And so that's the hardest thing for me to explain. I can't go too deep into other religious practices or beliefs because I'm not a religious scholar. I'm really not. I'm considering myself agnostic. But I do think, at this point, thousands of stories that I've read, not just on the channel, but just for my own enjoyment and curiosity. There's more going on than what is immediately apparent. Now, I don't know if there's one particular religion that is true. I do know that having access to future information or more information that is consciously aware of, that is something that happens to a lot of people. So does that necessitate channeling some god? Or is it just that if you have a strong belief in your ability to do something, then you access a different layer of reality that enables you to do that, purely from belief alone? I don't know. And yeah, there definitely are plenty of scammers out there. Just because someone says they're a medium or they're a mentalist or something like that, doesn't mean that they are, truly. But I do think there are special people that can access that other layer, deeper layer of reality, and use it for really incredible things. But as far as me, that's as far as I go for now. I don't know more. Now time for the jokes of the day. A woman noticed her husband standing on the bathroom scale, sucking in his stomach. "Ha, that's not gonna help," she said. "Sure it does," he said. "It's the only way I can see the numbers." My ex-wife was struck by lightning. Now she's my current wife. Unlimited power. Today I decided to go visit my childhood home. I asked the residents if I could come inside because I was feeling nostalgic, but they refused and slammed the door in my face. My parents are the worst. Damn. Disowned. What did Snow White say when her photocopier took so long? Someday, my prince will come. Why is dark spelled with a K and not a C? Because you can't see in the dark. Just go away. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.